On the 20th of November 2015, Nigeria submitted the intended nationally determined contributions to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The INDC is an active plan on climate change submitted by countries before the 21st Conference of Parties to the Kyoto Protocol, which met in Paris in December. And the INDC, Nigeria commits to 20% unconditional and 45% conditional greenhouse gas emissions reduction post-2020. Under the Framework Convention on Climate Change, the world reached an agreement in December 2015 in Paris. The document produced acknowledges the dangers of looking at the world through the single lens of climate change. It identifies the need to safeguard other critical services such as food production, water resources, and biodiversity. In light of the INDC focus on mitigation potential in key sectors, the federal government highlights adaptation strategies for 6 high-emitting sectors. These sectors are agriculture, forestry, energy, transportation and communications, industries and commerce, and vulnerable groups.
We're encouraging partnerships that will help us do this. I think we have to reflect upon it with some of the multinational organizations that are working in our country for renewables. The oil companies have to think about that, and they have to, help us to get on that track. So I think, yes, Nigeria's doing its best. It needs to do certainly a lot more. We need to exploit science and technology on this. And get that working. This is where you get young people doing it. When I see people showing films of women or men still planting with a hoe, this is disgraceful. This is not the way. Technology can allow you to plant fields and fields and fields in agriculture much easier, and it will attract young people into farming. When people say that farming is just for those that are now retiring and there's no one to fill it, then you have to find ways to encourage them. And technology is a really good way to do that.
Nigeria is a low-middle income country with a large, fast-growing population. Without ambitious mitigation action, Nigeria's per capita emissions are projected to grow to 3.4 tons of CO2 equivalent coming from a low development base. The federal government in the INDC states that emissions from Nigeria's conditional contribution are expected to stabilize slightly above today's level of 2 tons per capita once the full package of the policies and measures has been implemented with international support. Global per capita emissions need to converge around 2 tons per capita by 2050. The government also considers that its contribution is in line with its common but differentiated responsibility and respective capability and makes a fair and ambitious contribution to the global efforts to prevent dangerous climate change. The livelihoods of Nigeria's poorest farmers are already at risk from climate change. Rising temperatures, too little rain or too much rain, thriving pests all lead to crop losses. Without access to improved seeds, fertilizer and appropriate technologies such as irrigation systems and finance, Nigeria's food security will be at risk. With growing food demand from a growing population, declining harvests would strain supply, increasing malnutrition and possibly reverse recent progress in alleviating poverty. Estimates of the benefits from agroforestry range from total emissions reductions of 158 million tons to 715 million tons. Another example is a reduction of methane emissions from livestock through improved feeding and breeding. The government says halting deforestation and the conservation of remaining natural forests, as well as reversing forest degradation, is important. A failure to do so undermines the productive capacity of the land, as well as key ecosystems. The use of fuel wood and charcoal for fuel is also a major source of degradation of Nigeria's forests. By some estimates, at the current rate of deforestation, there will be no significant forest remaining in a few years' time, unless strong action is taken. It must, however, be recognized that charcoal provides essential fuel for many in Nigeria, and its use cannot simply be reduced without providing alternatives. Efficient cook stoves are one way to reduce fuel demand, and alternative heating sources could be provided.
You say people should not cut wood, and you're not giving them the opportunities. So those are the type of things. But if you link not cutting wood with improved cook stove, or now say, look, I want Minister of Environment, I want Ministry of Petroleum Resources, producing gas, to work together. I don't want the woods to be cut anymore, but the people must have access to gas in the rural areas, in addition to improved cook stove. You know, you have linked it that way. It becomes more meaningful for the president to say, I see the reason. So gas something. How do we make sure that gas is available to rural people? Then you have, by not cutting the wood, we improved the carbon sink, which means some of the carbon that is emitted can be absorbed by the tree that we are not cutting. We improved the smoke level. And we have reduced the GHG emission that the country has contributed to.
All this costs money, and government says it does not have money.
It's not everything that costs so much. I'm not asking that you say you want to give everybody gas free. I think the problem the government has to work on is attitudinal change. Number one attitudinal change Nigeria needs, if we want to develop, is that government has a role, but people have more role than the government. Because in the long run, it's the people that suffer.
There is a need to build new capacity for climate adaptation, particularly in poorer and more vulnerable areas in the country. Climate change is already here, and its fingerprint in many recent climate extremes is clear. All communities need new capacity and knowledge to strengthen their resilience and sustainable development pathways. 2016 presents a unique opportunity to start all over. With the INDCs, we can begin to right all the wrongs, and we all will be better for it. Just remember, it begins with you. Conserve electricity, don't waste food, and recycle as much as possible. Above all, the S5 crew wishes you a very prosperous and zero carbon 2016. We will see you next week.